Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's amazing guest is Loy Brunson. And he and his brothers, they filed a court case that was accepted by the Supreme Court against 388 members of the House of Representatives and Senate. This also includes Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. This is an unusual interview for me, but I was super honored because he wanted to come on the show with Holly and I. We have another show called Red, Right, and Blue. And I just felt like this was such important information that I also wanted to share it with you guys. So I hope you enjoy this information. There is a call to action, so please pay attention to it. And let's go say hello to Holly and Loy. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhide, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Create Whole Body Wellness, a powerful new advancement in energy medicine. Increase your energy, empower your life. I am super excited to announce that I am now a bioenergetics practitioner. And many people are like, well, what is bioenergetics? So imagine that our body is controlled by our energy field, and these fields get distortions and blockages, which create physical and emotional symptoms. So how do we get energy blockages? From stress, toxins, EMFs, emotional traumas, physical scars, and physical traumas. All you need to do is decode the human body field to get to the root cause and restore your energy for life. For more information, head on over to the blog at highenergygirl.com/bioenergetics with an X. That's BIOENERGETIX, and heal your energy for life.
Everybody, I am Holly, and today we have the special honor to have Loy Brunson. Those of you who are familiar with this court case, it is the pursuant the matter of Roland J. Brunson versus Alma S. Adams. And it is the Community Support Foundation. It's a grassroots organization involving citizens across the country in submitting the amicus curiae. Did I say that right?
Amicus curiae on behalf of the petitioners, Roland J. Brunson and we the people. So welcome, Loy. Pleasure to have you on today. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So we prepared a bunch of questions for you. And this is the SCOTUS case. It is number 22-380. And if you want to just tell a little bit about your motivation for pursuing this case.
Okay, this is it's also a 22-4007 case, and that's the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, because under this emergency situation, they can fully adjudicate the full complaint. Now I'm getting into too many technical terms. I shouldn't do that. So, okay, what was your question?
What was your motivation for presenting this?
The same as everyone else's. When we saw Mike Pence and other members of Congress certify an electoral vote without an investigation. We know they need to certify it, but not when there's 100 witnesses saying, hey, there's crimes involved here. We've got witnesses we need to investigate.
But for the listeners that don't know what this case is about, can you give us a brief overview of why exactly you filed this case and what was the basis for your claim of fraud?
Okay. Sure. Well, when the electoral vote was being certified, Mike Pence announced that it was certified and done. There were 100 members of Congress that wanted to just take a 10-day pause so that the crimes that they had evidence of relating to the election could be investigated, just a 10-day simple investigation. And so 380 some odd members of Congress refused a 10-day investigation. And now you have all this fallout now. It's like, all these election deniers. Well, you should have investigated them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't investigate something, you can't complain about the deniers, right? And so because they did not vote with Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, and about 98 others for a 10-day investigation, which they were obligated to do, they've taken oaths they swore to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution, which means the Union, which means our elections, right? And because they failed a simple investigation, because they refused a simple investigation, that was a crime. That could be considered an act of treason or dereliction of duty. It was a huge, huge mistake on their part. And so because of that, we're suing that they be removed from office so that we could secure and get rid of this security breach and this liability that we have, as long as people that won't investigate crimes reported. They should not be the gatekeepers. They should not be members of Congress. So we're suing to have them removed and barred from holding public office ever again, right down to the local level, in order to secure our national security.
Mm-hmm.
So that's right.
Just to segue off of that. So what you're basically accusing them of is not following the law for the 10 days?
Yeah, they were supposed to investigate. It's like I said, if crimes are reported by a credible witness, law enforcement is obligated to go investigate. If they don't, they're accountable. They become accomplices of the crimes. Mm-hmm. And so it's very important. That is their job, is to protect and defend us. And when there are 100 witnesses saying, hey, crimes have been committed, let's investigate, we might find something deeper. We might find nothing at all. But at least the dust settles and we know what happened. We know if there was a breach or not. It's like your alarm going off. If you have an alarm system and it goes to the alarm company and they don't check it because they feel like it's gone off before, so they're not going to check it. Whoa, that's bad news. But when it's a police force that, they've taken an oath and that's their job, they can go to jail for not investigating crimes.
So did you start this right away when you noticed that this was not done? So this goes way back, or how soon was it when you...
It was 2020, January 6th. My brother watched all the congressional hearings, and we have a 2-inch thick affidavit that shows the evidence that they refused to look at and use to investigate. And so he was very upset, as many Americans were watching that. Here's Ted Cruz and others saying, hey, there's some problems here. Wow, we better check this out before we vote here. This is serious. And it was a simple pause. Look, Congress is out of session for weeks at a time. What's 10 days, right? And the fact that they just wanted to ram it through and not investigate, that's why we're suing. And so we're not suing about the outcome of the election. We're not suing to put someone in office. We're suing to remove the security breach. And the security breach is every single member of Congress that refused to do their job and defend this country by defending us from possible crimes and fraud and altering an election. And so they didn't do it. And so that was a crime that they did that. And so we have about 6 causes of action, and that's one of them, violation of the oath of office. And that leads to another thing. The oath of office, the Constitution, Article 6, requires that they all be bound by oath, not that they take an oath. The word is bound. And what we found is they've given themselves immunity with federal statutes, and even California has given immunity regarding perjury. There are perjury statutes, and you can go to jail for committing perjury unless you're a politician and had to do with the oath of office to support the Constitution. So this is a major problem that can be corrected with this lawsuit. We want the Supreme Court in the petition. We're asking the Supreme Court to strip the immunity, and when that's stripped, guess what happens? The First Amendment protected right to petition the government for redress of grievances is now a real protected right. Right now, it's not protected at all because of immunity. So once that is stripped, then the courts can open up. The attorneys will be open to bringing complaints, civil complaints against representatives that are violating their oath of office, that they've sworn to uphold the Constitution. So this has several different facets to it that could be a tremendous push towards the right direction of this country.
That's amazing.
Sort of like a policeman sees a taillight out and it's broken glass. It's like, oh, it's such a small infraction. He shouldn't pull the car over, right? Well, he's obligated to, and then he pulls it over and he sees that someone is being threatened inside, and it prevents a murder case, possibly. So because they didn't investigate for 10 days and search to see if the tip of the iceberg exposed a much greater problem that would put the whole country at risk security-wise, they failed their duties, they failed their obligation, they failed their oath of office, and they became a security risk. And so this case actually gives the Supreme Court power to review it and to vote on it. And if they felt like that they should have investigated, which is obvious they should have, then they have the power to remove this compromise, to remove this security breach that could happen again, because we still have the same gatekeepers in place, right? We still have all those members of Congress that refuse to investigate. You don't want that kind of a police force. You don't want that kind of security around your house. You want to be safe and secure, and you want every possible nuance of a possible crime taking place to be investigated so that you can prevent a crime or expose crimes that have been committed. And they failed to do that. And so because of that, the Supreme Court now has the power with this case to remove 385 members of Congress from their federal offices, as well as the sitting president and vice president, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and to bar every one of them from holding public office ever again within the United States, right down to the local level. And that includes Mike Pence. So that's it in a nutshell.
Woo!
Nice.
That's intense, and that's amazing. And thank you on behalf of we the people for taking this and doing this, because you are trailblazing for future generations, and my hat's off to you. Kudos.
Well, you're the Army now. It's you doing what you're doing right now. That's why I've quit doing everything else. I'm just focused on the warriors like you that want to take the word to the people so they can champion this and have some hope now that the Supreme Court has the power. Without a case, they don't have the power to do anything. But now with this case, they have the legal and constitutional power to do what I just said and much more. That's the crux of the lawsuit is they broke the rules, right? They don't see, but the Congress has House rules, but they really broke the law. They really broke the law when they're supposed to certify the vote. It's like Senator Mike Lee stood up and said, I've got to certify the vote. That's my obligation as a U.S. Senator according to the Constitution. But he doesn't understand. He should understand that fraud vitiates everything, which means it changes everything. And so you've got to make sure there's no fraud before you certify the vote. It's like, that's what certifying the vote is. Make sure that these ballots, these electoral, votes are real. And if you have claims of fraud and you certify them and then they find out they're fraud, then you become an accomplice. You become super liable. So this is a protection for the Congress too, to before certifying the vote to cover their butts, right? And so who's protected by voting the right way? It's 100 members of Congress, and those that recklessly went forward with this, not following the law, not following their obligations, not following any of the statutes that require them to investigate when there's such claims, they violated the law, and they need to be removed because they're a security risk. And we cannot keep them in office once they've done it once. If we do, then we're the problem. Then we're allowing a security breach to continue. So they need to be removed from office and barred from holding public office again for security, not for punishment. So for security reasons, that needs to happen. And then we get them replaced with representatives that we believe wouldn't do that. So I think Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz would help figure out ways to make sure that there is that kind of a screening for candidates that would fill the seats that would be empty.
And where does the claim of immunity fall in with that?
Oh, that would be, there wouldn't be, they wouldn't have the immunity. Title 28, U.S. Code Title 28, I think is where you can see some of that. But even states have immunity clauses. But once the Supreme Court makes a decision striking immunity, then you can bring immunity cases. Interesting. That's their defense. And so you can bring immunity cases on a local level. And if they say we have immunity, you can say, well, wait a second. We have legal authority, which means we have authority proving with court case, United States Supreme Court case, that you don't have immunity, that it's unconstitutional. Now, when a case is ruled a certain way, and it's not an appellate case, it's just a lower court case, you can use that as an example But for it to be an appellate case, then it becomes real legal authority. But for it to be a United States Supreme Court decision, then the legal authority is it's at its most potent level and powerful level. And so if you bring an action into a local, like a state court, there's no way they could argue against a Supreme Court decision.
Now, is there something that we, the people, like, how can we best support you?
Go to 7discoveries.com and make a $1 donation so that we know you're out there listening and supporting this. And there are other things you can do. I have this Constitution book that we're using concepts from that have discoveries in it that have been overlooked for over 200 years, showing that there's a problem with the oath not being binding. We go into that, and like we mentioned, the interpretation clause that protects the interpretation of the Constitution to be only in favor of the inalienable rights of the people. So they have that. They can get that book. They can get a hard copy of the petition, Parita Certiorari. For $30, you can get a hard copy of that mailed to you, and priority mail, I believe. And then you can just donate $1. Whatever you want to do, just donate $1. Just get up and at least just donate $1.
But is there something we can do with writing letters or doing something else to influence?
Yes, we're trying to figure out an organized way to present that opportunity on the website so people can go to the website and see a simple kind of options where you could make it simple and clear for the justices, so they know that instead we don't want to rant, we don't want to go off on them, but just like we're praying that you keep your oath, that you support the Constitution and make the oath binding, something that simple. And we want to provide some kind of a platform where people can just go to the site and see some simple instructions so they're not confused about what they can do. So we're going to work on that. So just keep your eyes on 7discoveries.com for that. And I can come back on to at some point if we want to talk about that more as things progress.
So as far as is it sending a letter to the Supreme Court right now if everybody went and sent a letter to support you and to make sure that this case is heard and that we absolutely support this?
Oh my gosh. If everyone right now just sat down, and I need to talk to my brothers and some people that know about amicus briefs because it's a legal term, but I don't think there'd be anything wrong with a positive letter to the Supreme Court justices. Like, we're praying that you support strengthening the Constitution by strengthening the oath, by stripping immunity, something like that. If you want to write a note on a postcard and send it to the Supreme Court, there's nothing wrong with that. That'd be terrific.
Well, anything we can do right now to just get behind you and support you and be, we the people, boots on the ground here, that we demand really that this is heard, that this is finally, this insanity, the way the government is being run and the corruption ends. And that's what you're doing.
Exactly.
So anything we can do.
There's a letter right there. And I need to find out more. I guess there's some organizations that can do some, more of I'm going to have to research amicus briefs. But letters to the court would be phenomenal. I mean, can you imagine if everyone?
Oh my God. All right. So everybody that's listening, just write the Supreme Court a letter right now in support of this court case.
A short letter, nothing long, just a short message. Yeah.
That's huge. Wonderful. I mean, we all can do that. We are a large grassroots community that want to see this for future generations. I mean, we're here to do that. I've always said, I don't want to die and say, why didn't you do something while you were there? We're all here. We have a voice. We can do something now, and it's up to each one of us to do this. So thank you for taking the lead, and the rest is up to us to go and, follow suit with having force behind you.
Great. That's what we have till January 6th. That's what's supposed to happen now. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a month away. What's today? The 6th? I think today's the 6th.
Yeah.
So we have 1 month and we want to have a very Merry Christmas. So let's get on it, people. The next question I was going to ask is, so you and your brother each filed court cases. So I believe it's your brother's case that actually is going to SCOTUS. Is that right?
There are 3 brothers. I'm a plaintiff. Roland J. Brunson is a plaintiff, and then Darren is the legal mind. He understands legal procedure in state, federal courts, as well as the United States Supreme Court, where he's actually successfully got docketed 2 of his positions. He's not a lawyer. And so there are 3 of us involved in this, and we all go over every word of the complaints and of the pleadings. We do it together. And each of us, it's interesting, contributes a special nuance and like a double check of what's happening and what should put in there. Roland, my case was in federal court. We were only going to do one case, my case. We got stuck in federal court with it, and the magistrate judge was assigned to help us, which was pretty cool. So she helped us, and we did a first amended complaint. We did a second amended complaint. We did a third amended complaint. Finally, we ended up with a 4th amended complaint that has all the bugs out of it. And so my brother Roland came up with the idea of, why don't we do another one? And he volunteered to be the plaintiff. So we said, okay, so while my case is moving forward, we have an identical one that's just a complaint. Didn't have to amend it because it was perfected. And so his has different judges. See, my judge in federal court was an Obama appointee. I don't think his was. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted it to go into court and get tossed. We wanted it to get tossed. We wanted it to be dismissed. Why? Because when they dismiss it, that's a decision. And once there's a decision, we can move it up to the next level. Our goal is the United States Supreme Court. We're in federal court, so it can get there quicker than if you go through state court. So it's moving up the ladder into the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals on his case with his name on it. And it's stuck. It sticks there for 4 months because the justices there are 3 judges that decide. It's not just one of the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, and they will make a decision. And I'd already sued him on my case for slow decisions in state court. And actually, they finally did what I wanted them to do, but I had to take him to state court to do it. I took 2 federal courts to state court. That's a whole nother story, an interesting story. So here he is stuck in the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals without a decision. Well, without a decision, you can't take it to the Supreme Court. And I think the Supreme Court knew that, or the 10th Circuit Court believed that we couldn't move beyond that unless they made a decision. And I believe that's why they weren't making a decision, because they didn't want us to take it. And they knew we could, because we'd already done an amicus brief and taken that. They knew we could take it to the Supreme Court as soon as they made a decision to dismiss. It's like we're chomping at the bits, make a decision, dismiss this so we can take it to the Supreme Court, the top court in the land, right? So they're sitting on this forever, right? So we decided, oh, we're stuck. We're just going to give up, basically, almost. And so my brother Roland and I decided to just keep pushing. We just felt like, no, we got to be able to do something. So we kept pushing my brother Darren, who's the legal guy, knows procedure. And finally he says, well, I'll look, but there's no way we're going to be able to get it to the Supreme Court. So he looked and he called me. I remember the phone call. He called me and he was excited. He says, Loy, I found it. There's a Rule 11, a Supreme Court Rule 11, not a federal court Rule 11, not a state court Rule 11, but there's a Supreme Court Rule 11 that if you characterize your petition as a national emergency, you file your petition, but you put on the cover and you put your pleadings, your reasons for believing that it's a national emergency. You put that right in the petition, and what you put on the cover is this court's Rule 11. So it was this court's Rule 11, petition of writ of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court. So we get that all prepared, and it's pretty complex. And there's a format. There's even a certified word count for this document, right? It's pretty thin. They want it brief. They can refer to the complaint, which is really super thick. But when they take it into conference or before then, they want it to be very simple, right? Okay, so here we are with this petition ready to go, and we ship it off to them, and then we just wait. It's a waiting game. And so 5 days later, my brother gets a phone call from the United States Supreme Court clerk's office. Now, let me explain. The clerk of the court is not a justice clerk. The clerk of the court happens to be Scott Sessions Harris. And for 11 years, he was the United States Supreme Court attorney. Did you know that the Supreme Court has an attorney?
No.
Yes, he was their attorney, their counsel. And so now he is the clerk of the court. The clerk of the court is the gatekeeper. they get tons of petitions that they ship right back to the petitioners because they don't qualify. They're not formatted correctly, or they haven't gone through the process of all the lower court's decisions. They toss them right back, right? So we were hoping that they wouldn't toss ours back since we hadn't received a 10th Circuit Court decision, right? That's what they're supposed to do, is toss it back, unless they agree with us that it's a national emergency. And so we put it under Rule 11, hoping that they will accept it. And so 5 days later, my brother Roland gets a phone call from the clerk's office. A case analyst calls him, and she says, we've decided to accept your case under Rule 11. So, wow, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And not only that, she said, we would like you to insert some documents that we've been looking at in the court dockets. We want you to include the motion to dismiss with that. And so we also included the opposition to the motion to dismiss. Okay. And we're thinking they want to do this so that they can show that it's fair, and that they would be fair, and that they're listening to the motion to dismiss, as their opposition. But okay, so now it's filed and docketed. Oh, no, I forgot a very important part of this. So we're getting ready to do it as they, asked us to do it, including their additional information, so to resend it to them. And so we're almost ready to take it to the binders because they asked for it to be perfect bound, and that's not many places do perfect bound. So here we are, we're almost ready to get a perfect bound, and we get noticed by the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals that they've made a decision, which is really odd. It's like, did someone let them know that we were doing a Rule 11? We do a Rule 11, it makes them look really bad, like they just wouldn't do anything, and it's a national emergency, and here they are sitting on it for 4 months, right? It's like, you can't do that. And so it was like a backpedaling is what we felt like it was doing. Why didn't they make a decision sooner? And so they make this decision, but it kind of throws a wrench in the works a little bit. And so we call the court, and we say, hey, we now have a decision from the 10th Circuit. So should we just go ahead and get you the petition with what you asked us to put in it with the Rule 11? Does it matter? And they said, it does matter. Take it out. We don't need it anymore. We'll just streamline this and make it a regular petition, and we'll accept it. So we went ahead and took it out, put in what we wanted, what they asked us to put in. And they also asked us, this is pretty interesting. They also said, how soon can you get it to us? And my brother says, well, it'll be about 2 weeks. And they had said that before. How soon can you get it to us? Get it to us as soon as you can. And so here's the court asking us to get a petition to them quickly. It's like, wow, of course, it's a national emergency, right? And so my brother says, well, it's going to take a couple of weeks. And the case analyst says, we'd really like to get it sooner than that. How soon can you get it to us? And he says, well, we'll do the best we can. We'll get it to you as soon as we can. We have to wait the printers and the binders and all that stuff. He says, okay, we'll just get it to us as soon as you can. And so we go to work on that. And instead of it taking 2 weeks, we got it ready in a week. And so on Friday, the 20th of November, we overnight mailed it to the Supreme Court. There are 45 copies. They asked for 5 copies so that a justice has it and 4 of their clerks have copies. And we send it to other places too, the Department of Justice, U.S. attorneys. And so we sent it to them. And on Monday, we look at the docket, and they docketed it. We sent it Thursday. They got it Friday. And then they're docketing it Monday. And then we look at the date that it was filed, and they show it filed the date we mail it. So they show it filed on the 20th. You can go to supremecourt.gov, or you can go to 7discoveries.com, where we've got everything there. 7discoveries.com, and it shows all this stuff, and it updates everything.
And then, so the justices, they have already agreed to hear the case. And are they really going to, funnily enough, hear it on January 6th?
Well, unfortunately, legal terms become common terms that we use as laymen, right? What does hearing mean? Okay. They've already had the petitions distributed to the justices, and on September 6th, they are scheduled to go into conference and vote on it prior to a trial. The real hearing, they call it a hearing. A hearing is when the litigants get to argue against each other in front of the justices. So the conference happens first, where it's gotten to conference now because the U.S. attorneys missed their opportunity to oppose it before conference. As a matter of fact, the U.S. attorneys were relieved of their duties representing the 380 defendants, and now the United States Solicitor General is representing the 388 defendants, and the Solicitor General waived their defendants' rights to oppose this before conference. They normally would file an opposition trying to convince the justices they only get one chance at this, file an opposition before it goes to conference. That's the only thing that they need to do. And we can file an opposition to their opposition. We can reply to that. But they chose instead to waive their right to defend themselves against this in conference. So now the 9 justices go into a room by themselves. It's set for January 6th. They review the situation, the petition, they review the case, and they take a vote. All 9 vote. And so when they vote, if 4 out of the 9 vote to move this forward to the trial, which we refer to as a hearing, then it moves forward, and that's where everyone gets lawyered up. They are already lawyered up with the Solicitor General, and they present their arguments in front of the justices. The justices can ask them questions, and then after all that's done, they make a decision, final decision. But since this is a Rule 11 case, anything could happen. Since it's a national emergency kind of a case, they could be doing things right now. I'm sure they're doing things right now. They could be, and they can adjudicate. Normally petitions are just reversing a decision or upholding a decision. But under Rule 11, they can take the full complaint from the docket and completely judge the whole complaint and every aspect of it and make decisions. So who knows what they're doing right now, and who knows what's going to happen between now and January 6th. But normally nothing happens between now and January 6th.
So, Loy, when I first heard about this, I guess it was maybe 2 weeks ago, and heard that it got pushed to January 6th, we've all been following this case very closely. I have to say, I was really bummed out. I was like, oh, no, it can't be pushed out. I mean, we all want a decision. We want this, heard. We want it done. We don't want to wait anymore, because one thing with this whole political arena, there is so much lag time. There is so much waiting. Things take forever. And we thought, yay, we're going to get, success in something. And then it got pushed out. So with this case, it can be heard anytime between now and January 6th. So it doesn't have to be just January 6th.
As far as I know, they are the justices. They are Supreme Court of the land. And under a Rule 11 emergency situation, they could seal the case. The case might be sealed right now. We don't even know it. And they need time to execute this. They can't just make a decision and execute it in one day. There's a lot of planning. Now, there's another very important element to this between now and January 6th. And the reason they put the date off a while on these cases, if it's a national concern, then they put it out there a while, like January 6th, so that the public can bring amicus briefs, can show their support. That's what's happening right now. She said nothing happens. No. Now it's up to the warriors like you, what you're doing with this. You're getting the word out so people can have hope, and encourage the justices to make the right decision, to support the Constitution, to keep their oath of office. And that's totally legal. It's called amicus briefs, friends of the court. Now it's up to friends of the court like you to expose this between January 6th. So that gives us enough time to get national support. It's perfect. And why they picked January 6th, I don't know, but we're all pretty thrilled that they picked January 6th, the 2-year anniversary of the purpose of this lawsuit. So it's gaining more momentum. Glenn Beck talked about it a little bit today, and he said that he wants to get me on the show tomorrow. So we're gaining some traction.
Yes, you are. Thank you.
What if they end up finding in favor of your complaint? What kinds of penalties do you believe will happen to the defendants if they're found guilty?
Well, that's totally speculation, but we're asking for things within the brief and the complaint. We're asking that they be barred from holding office the rest of their lives and that they be removed. So I would think that the court would give an order to the U.S. Marshal Service. The U.S. Marshal Service would show up at the Sergeant-at-Arms office, showing him a list and a court order that the following names need to be, the credentials need to be canceled on the following names. And then once it hits once people find out about it, I think there's going to be a lot of positive excitement, because I think there's about 100 people that would love to take the place of every one of those. So there'd be a lot of support for that, I'm sure. So that could happen. Other things could happen too. The press is a big problem here. They don't quite get it right, do they? Okay, so bearing that in mind, I think the court could even order, for security purposes, special broadcast teams. There are military broadcast teams, and they could be special ops that go into the different broadcast studios and temporarily take over until we get, I don't know, they could put the licenses up for, auction. Who knows what they could do? The directors of the communication division of this country, what's it called? The Federal Communications Commission, they could actually be replaced pretty swiftly too. They're presidentially appointed, and they take an oath to the Constitution too. Did you know that? The three directors of the Federal Communications Commission, they've fallen down on their oath too. Why? Because this immunity thing has gotten way out of control. So they could be replaced temporarily or permanently by special teams. And we could actually be watching CNN. I want to get a television just for CNN and keep it on 24/7, right? So all of a sudden we see a commercial, maybe it'll go black for a few minutes, and all of a sudden we see new faces. And then the news is reported in real time that you can verify with unedited reports and your own two eyes, and have things explained to you what's happening. And that would help a lot of people come together, unify, and they would see things start to get better almost immediately. Gas prices would probably start to go down quicker, and who knows what could happen. So I think it could, I am just speculating, but I think it could be a pretty smooth transition, even if it's just canceling the credentials of a lot of these defendants. And I think people would think that around January 6th, they would just think the election did it all, because a lot of people don't even follow the elections.
Right.
So anyway, it could be a very positive, smooth transition, I believe. And so maybe they need the time, they need the support from the American public. And then it's a unifying thing going on right now. I tell people, I say, if you have a Democrat friend that you've had arguments with, but you're still on speaking terms, go to them and say, hey, there's something here, that we can get together on. There's some Republicans that are going to be removed and Democrats removed, so that you and I can enjoy a more secure, sound, honest election. And isn't that what we all want? Absolutely. Don't you want to get rid of the election deniers on both sides? Wouldn't we like to be able to not deny elections and feel no reason to deny elections? Wouldn't that be nice?
Oh, yeah.
So going with whatever decision is made, would that happen instantly, in your opinion? If, let's just say, the Supreme Court rules and it's in your favor, do they come in right away? Is this done, or is it lag time, and do they get arrested? Are they,
No, this is a civil case. So if they would not get arrested, and I know there's been talk about that, they would have to be referred to the Department of Justice. There would have to be criminal investigations, grand juries. That's a whole nother world. So this is just a civil complaint. So it could be as mild as credentials being canceled. And now that the immunity is being stripped, you'd see a lot of people not want to run for office, and a lot of people would resign because they would feel the responsibility of it and the liability of it. There are a lot of people that would give their lives, and there are people giving their lives for their country and for patriotism. And those are the kind of people that would not be afraid of stripped immunity. Back at the beginning, you couldn't make a vote as a member of Congress. You were delivering the vote from the states. New York, in the First Continental Congress, the New York representatives would show up and they say, "What's your vote?" And they say, "We can't give it to you because it wasn't given to us. It's up to the state. It's up to the state legislature, up to the people." So our true representative government doesn't consist of representatives that make decisions without permission from their constituents through their legislators. So we've kind of gotten off track, but this main thing is immunity that this could fix, and it would turn things upside down in a good way. We would see things getting so much better. They would get better than they've ever been. So
almost overnight. I mean, it would just
absolutely. Absolutely, especially with the transition of the media, where now you're not seeing a bunch of stuff trying to divide people. You'd see more true stories about how people are uniting and coming together, and that the racism is, it's the fake racism would disappear, and it could be a terrific unifying thing. So the 9 justices are basically voting to uphold the Constitution, which they've sworn to do. They've actually sworn to vote in favor of this case. Their oaths require them. Now, the 9 justices have taken 2 oaths. They've taken an oath, judicial oath, which includes the Constitution, upholding it and defending it. But then there's another special oath that's 100% the Constitution, and that's pretty cool. So they've got 2 oaths to rule in favor of the petitioner on this case. And what would it do? It just unite. Now, here's a little interesting nugget, okay? A judge sometimes can recuse himself, or you can have a judge recuse. Let's say someone is being sued, and you find out that it's the judge's golfing partner, or it's the judge's club president that he belongs to. He would recuse himself, or if he's had legal dealings. So here, one of the defendants, Joe Biden, appointed Katanya Jackson Brown as a justice. So what she really needs to do is recuse herself because of the prejudice possibilities and the conflict of interest where she was appointed by one of the defendants. So I would think that would be an interesting thing to see happen if it goes to a public hearing, and maybe with enough support, it would be a public hearing just to sort of educate the country without doing anything drastic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And based on, and then they could always exercise. They could put it aside and say, we'll exercise this if the things get out of control, if they don't start making changes, right? So they could hold this over all of the members of Congress and all of our representatives without doing a thing, just saying, no, we've got it there, you better behave. So anyways, a lot of good stuff that could happen from this.
Just going back to the media, because I find that really fascinating. As we know, the media is so corrupt. They do not share proper news whatsoever. It's,
Yeah.
You look at Reuters, they're all saying the same thing. They get fed the lines to say, and, we don't get the truth. We don't get the true stories, what's going on, only what they want us to hear. So right. I find it interesting that you were saying they're federally appointed and there are, what were you saying?
Yeah, the federal communications directors that supervisor and control the licenses of the mainstream media have taken an oath of the Constitution. And I was surprised that Trump didn't take some action with that, because he could have cut their umbilical cords. Yes. So another interesting point about that is all armies of the world have a PSYOPs division, and a PSYOPs division is media, is news, and they can control and they can empower themselves greatly if they sway the position of the enemy with fake news. So this fake news stuff is really propaganda. It's PSYOPs. It's psychological warfare is what it is. So those people need to be held accountable. And with the stripping of the immunity, every single one of them could be accountable retroactively because their immunity is unconstitutional. And the oaths that they've taken, they're accountable for what they've done. So a lot of really positive things can happen.
So that's what I wanted to ask you about, this immunity that the Congress members have given to themselves. I would like to know, is this something legal that they are, or I should say lawful, that they've done, giving themselves immunity? And then the FCC, do they have immunity also?
Well, there's a lot of immunity. It's interesting with both my case and my brother's case. Well, our cases, both of our cases, the defense was never about the merits. The defense was immunity. So as a matter of fact, with my brother's case, with Rollins' case, the U.S. attorneys admitted wrongdoing. And in so doing, we were able to file a full summary judgment motion, which means we don't even need to go to trial. It's so obvious. And we used his case as affidavits of them admitting wrongdoing. And so a full summary judgment motion, we had enough evidence for that. So if the judge had just had a little more guts, a little more patriotism, he could have actually let us litigate that case against the 2 federal courts. And that would have been pretty interesting. So, but if you go to 7discoveries.com, all that information is in there. You can click on the update and the case history, and you can see all 3 cases and the progress they made. And that's pretty interesting.
So just for the listeners, just so that they have clarity, they might not have been following this case like everybody. So this is all based on the immunity that these, that's really the basis of what this is, that they gave themselves immunity.
Sure.
And it was fraudulent doing that.
Well, we even quote statutes that even the immunity they've given themselves doesn't cover treason and doesn't cover some of the stuff they did. So even it's just they haven't been following the law. And I've asked a couple of U.S. senators what the penalty is for breaking the oath, and they both have said, and they're pretty well known. They both said you lose the election. It's like, gosh, that's like, hey, okay, I just signed a contract with you. What if I don't pay you? What if I get the goods and services and don't pay you? Oh, you don't have to because you have immunity. I mean, that's so obviously wrong and unconstitutional. Article 6 of the Constitution requires every one of them that have taken an oath to uphold the Constitution to be bound by that oath. And to be bound by that oath, you are responsible. You are liable. And you can't go out and do stuff like not investigate crimes when 100 members of Congress want you to. You do that, you're going to be subject to civil complaints, which ours is, and also criminal investigation if it's referred to the Department of Justice. So we're there. We got it to the Supreme Court. We were hoping we could get there, and we got it there.
Wow.
Congratulations, because it really is monumental. I mean, you are changing the course of history. And I'm just honored to be here talking to you because, this is unprecedented what you guys have done and put together. And kudos to you. We need more people like you that see an injustice and say, I'm not going to sit back.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take action.
And
this
they will.
Wrong.
They've wanted to, but attorneys have blocked their actions. Now they won't be blocked. Now they can move forward.
Right. I mean, because really, our future generations, if we don't do something now and make a stand, we're doomed. And it's people like you that say, I'm going to do something and I'm going to do it now and not wait. And then there's people like Tracy and I that are out there, speaking up and doing what we can do at our level.
Great. And you're the warriors right now. What you're doing is phenomenal. And what my brother Darren has done with legal procedure, he's following their rules better than they follow them. And we've discovered through what he's doing, he's discovered that they have their own set of rules. And when you hold them accountable to their rules, like we're doing with the Constitution, we're saying, hey, wait a second, you're claiming immunity, but we have a Constitution that says that you don't have immunity. So what's up with that? So for him to maneuver as the director of this lawsuit, he's the legal director of this thing, to maneuver it through the courts and get it to the U.S. Supreme Court when no one else has ever presented a case like this, ever, that we know of. You've got Susan Powell and Trump's attorneys and all these attorneys. Why did they do this? Why didn't they go for the breach of national security? You know why? Because all the attorneys have been trained that if you have a civil complaint asking for monetary damages against an officer of the government, you have to go to a special court. You can't take it to state court. You can't take it to federal court. You have to take it to a special claims court, and only after you get permission from the sergeant at arms to do so and get a waiver. So we just ignored all that based on the fact that the Constitution protects our right to go to any court we want if we have a petition for redress of grievances. So we did that, and so it had to be a lay person as us, because we're not going to think about what the rules are, what the law is, or what they're accepting as the right procedure. We're just going to go by the constitutionality of it all and play by their rules. And so we were able to get it to the Supreme Court, and they're responding positively, and it gives them the power to defend themselves because they're under attack right now. There are a lot of things going on with a lame duck Congress right now, and the attacks have been crazy, threatening, allowing people to protest in front of justices' houses, threatening, we're going to come and get you, Kavanaugh. We're going to come and get you, Barrett. Isn't that what Chuck Schumer said publicly? And he had to be called down on it. It was like he was inciting a riot, inciting people to go cause physical harm. And Amy Coney Barrett's children they've been threatened. They've had to move out of their houses temporarily at times to avoid, what's going on in front of their houses, stacking the court. So this is an opportunity for them to flex their muscles, and maybe they'll do it in a way where they will show the power that they have. And if they don't see immediate changes, then they can exercise their authority to do something. So maybe that's their plan, where they would just say, hey, look, you want to have a problem here? If you don't, then start shaping up. Resign, stop promoting this nonsense. And they have a tremendous amount of power. Attorneys have analyzed this, and they said this is the most powerful case they believe in the history of this country in the Supreme Court.
Wow.
It's
That is
almost
amazing.
like there is divine intervention in this case. You know, that God definitely has his hand in this case, guiding and directing you guys to do this.
Yeah.
Because I think God saw the direction of this country, and somebody needed to do something. And you absolutely have been divinely inspired and directed for doing this. And all the people that have come in that have helped you and assisted you, it's been miraculous, really.
Yeah, I know. We tell ourselves that we're just three dumb trumpet players, you know. We're not attorneys. We're not even college educated, right? We're basically high school dropouts, to tell you the truth, you know. And so here these things happen and these miracles happen. And it's like, so we kind of go to the scriptures and go, well, you know, jawbone of an ass. You know, who was it? Samson picked up a jawbone of an ass and defeated an army with it. And so I'm the jawbone of the ass.
That's hilarious.
That is.
So, Loy, what if you guys win the case, or I should say, when you win the case, will this have any effect on the 2020 results?
Oh my gosh! Just if they just strip their immunity, are you kidding? There's so many people with great resources and legal experience. The courts would be flooded, and I'll tell you, and there could be civil monetary damages, okay, for what they've done. It would be like turning on the lights and the rats disappear. It could be that incredible, I think. So, oh my gosh, people would resign. I think it would be a cleansing, an unbelievable cleansing right down to the local level. It'd be a whole new climate for representative government and people in office, because they know now. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, I worked with someone who creates bills for the legislators here in Utah, and I wanted to see if they would at least look at a bill that attaches a penalty to the oath of office. And one of our famous legislators, I forgot what it was, pretty well-known state representative, she told me, she says, this was his comment. He says, wait, you mean if I violated the Constitution, I could be held accountable for it? It's like,
duh.
Wow. Now we're talking. See, we really have something here. We're excited about it.
That's great. What would happen to I think there was 100 Congress people that didn't want to certify this. What happens to them? Are they still tied up in this whole thing? Are they?
No, they're not defendants.
Okay.
We're not suing them.
Okay.
Yeah. So even those who abstained from not voting one way or the other, we're not suing them.
Okay.
So this would just be a cleansing, and the people that wanted to replace the ones that are being removed. Can you imagine? It's like, yeah, I want that office. It's like, wait a minute, I'd be accountable. Like the guy I was talking about. Oh my gosh, if I broke oh my gosh, I'm going to have to read the Constitution. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to obey oh wow, I don't want any part of this. I'll just go do some other scam.
Wow. That's crazy. There's a free Constitution class that if anybody wants to take it, Hillsdale College has a beautiful online Constitution 101 class. So anybody can go and check that out. And I think now would be a very appropriate time for that. Right, Holly?
And then go to 7 Discoveries. I have a Constitution book. They actually, when people want books of the Constitution, pocket-sized book, they refer them to me. I've gotten referrals from Hillsdale because I have the discoveries in this Constitution, in this pocket-sized book that connects the dots, shows the power clauses. The Constitution books that are out there, they don't show any interpretation. They can't because they want them in the schools. I connect the dots and show how powerful they are and explain their power. So mine is the only Constitution book that you want as a reference with any other Constitution book.
Oh, just in time for Christmas.
Absolutely. Great stocking stuffer. We're completely out right now. We're getting more printed. Within the next few days, we'll have a lot more. But hopefully we'll have at least another 10,000 printed before, time enough to get some for Christmas. So you can go to 7discoveries.com and make a donation. We're asking people, if you're listening and you want to participate, you don't feel like there's any way you can, please go to 7discoveries.com and make $1 donation for a PDF. It's $1 donation. You can make any amount you want. And then we know you're out there. We know you're listening and you're with us. You're supporting us. Make $1 donation and that's wonderful. Just that. So
And we'll put the link up at the bottom of this so everybody can see it.
Yeah. All right.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's awesome. So you're really just following the Constitution with what you're doing. I mean, this is
the Constitution. There are things in the Constitution, important clauses that have been overlooked even by our best scholars for over 200 years, having to do with taxation and money, the oath of office. That's like you and other things. I claim that if you look at my, I don't know if you can read that. It's 7 discoveries.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Well, that might not be that's not the correct one, but that's a previous book I had, but it'll say 7 discoveries. So I claim that I've discovered some concepts in the Constitution that have never been published before. I mean, that's a pretty ostentatious claim, right? So one of them is I found an interpretation clause. No one has ever published this thought before that I know of. And that is, in the document, there is a clause that demands the Constitution only be interpreted in ways that protect your God-given unalienable rights. And I explain that. And it's the first 10 amendments were defined by Congress as further declaratory and restrictive clauses to the Constitution. But we call those 10 amendments the Bill of Rights. I think that was a mistake to call it the Bill of Rights. And I think it was a way it hides the power of the first 10 amendments, and then we ignore the power of the first 10 amendments. So the interpretation clause is Amendment 9, and it goes like this. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. No misconstruing the Constitution or any clause in it in ways that benefit the federal government at the expense of the unalienable rights of the people. That's a brilliant clause to have in a contract. No interpreting this contract or this will in a way that's going to hurt the heirs of this contract. And so that being there, when I read that, I thought, this is the voice of God. It sounds like the 11th commandment, shall not be construed, right? Yeah. And there are others too. If you were to ask a member of Congress right now to show you a specific clause that clearly defines and prohibits socialism, they wouldn't be able to do it. Think about it. Have you ever heard even the best of our representatives, our most constitutionally conservative representatives, share a clause that we should share with others to push back against socialism? We have the Second Amendment, right, with bearing arms and guns. Where's that thou shalt not have socialism clause? Well, it's there. And that's the last line of the Fifth Amendment. It goes like this. Nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Now, private property includes your money, okay? So the government can't take our money and give it to someone else, public use. But see, that raises some questions. That's also the definition of taxation, all taxation, right? But I don't want to get into that. But the book addresses those questions and connects the dots so we see things in the Constitution that have been hidden for over 200 years.
So do you have a volume 2 for the remedy?
The remedy is what we're doing with this. This will fix everything. This is the beginning of fixing everything right down to taxation.
I have chills.
Our level of prosperity in this country, if we get this through the Supreme Court, this will create a tidal wave of goodness and turn this country into a greater country. We're not a nation. The word nation is not even in the Constitution. We're really a union, okay? But the standard of living, if we do this and keep going, will go through the roof. Instead of headlines about, low income and problems with employment, it'll be just the opposite. A headline could be like this. Another business, even though it had a great business plan, had to close because we don't have everyone's working and making good money. So we couldn't get anyone to come to work. So we had to close down this opportunity. That's what it would be. More opportunities than there are people to fulfill the opportunities. And anyone that wants to work hard would be compensated generously because it would be worth it to the employer, and they would be able to keep 100% of their earnings.
That is so important. I live in California in the Bay Area, and the commuters and the moms that are working and leaving their children at home and having to work half of your hours just to give it to the government or wherever it goes. It's heartbreaking. Yeah. And I feel like that right there is the secret, because if people could not have to stress so much about that, they could actually spend more time creating community, having, experiences and enjoying their life while their feet are on this earth.
Right. And I have a plan I put in a previous book. My plan now would be to make the transition to eliminate 100% of the socialism and corrupt spending. And this would fire up the economy. This would not hurt it. We would do a $100,000 per adult citizen tax refund. People who have paid into the tax system would get $100,000 tax-free, and then with a promise that no more taxes, no more gasoline. We don't even need, the Constitution is so incredible, we don't even need tax on a Twinkie, okay? Think about it. When $1 trillion is created out of thin air, that's not supposed to be tax burden for you and I, but it's supposed to be profit. But what's happening? It's pure profit for the central bankers of the world and tax debt for us. And what they're doing is the Federal Reserve shareholders are violating their nonprofit status. And if we could simply eliminate the corruption, eliminate socialism, and enforce their nonprofit status, there would be enough real wealth that they have created with our money to benefit everyone to at least $100,000. And we would want to do it based on their taxes and not just hand it out like candy. But that would be a stimulus that would work. Even with that, prices would go down, no taxation whatsoever. Of course, the tax accountants would have to then work for successful businesses, because most of the population would be entrepreneurial and developing their own talents and inventions and production, whatever, and that it would shift that way. And the Constitution was put together for us to be completely tax-free, free to own the fruit of our labors. And if we did that, this country would be a blinding light to the rest of the world, and everyone else in the world would want to flee to this country. And we would put together a quick immigration system, a fast immigration system, because we would need people to come in and fill the jobs, because there would be so much opportunity here in this country. That's my vision.
I'm listening to you, and the magnitude of this case, I never grasped how the magnitude, it is the tip of the spear that is going to topple down this entire corrupt system that has ongoing effect. It's going to be like, you're going to tip that one domino and all the other dominoes are going to fall down that have been stacked up for years, that have been against us. You're toppling everything. Really what you're doing is you're bringing us back to what our founding fathers wanted for this country to be. Yeah. Amazing.
I'm super excited. I have a question about the case, though, that just came to me. It's like, so it only took them 5 days, and you said it got on the docket. Like, I think you said you mailed it Thursday and it was on the docket by Monday. I think it was so fast.
Because they sense the urgency of this. Every day, people are suffering. So they know.
Huh. Maybe they just were waiting for somebody to bring it to them correctly so that they could actually lawfully accept it.
Yeah, they can't. They have no power unless they have a petition in front of them. And the fact that they accepted it as an emergency petition, they understand the gravity of this. I mean, these are smart people, and I think the clerk of the court, who was 11 years of attorney, I think he's smart, and he gets it, and he sees this. So I think that they understand it as well as anyone, the gravity of this and the power that they've just been handed. They have the power to literally flex their muscles. They could do nothing, and just showing what they could do could cause people to resign, I think. So this is a very delicate situation. I have my vision that I shared with you that I thought it could be an exciting transition without bringing criminal action against any of them. And if people felt sorry for them, they could, do a GoFundMe site and stuff if they felt sorry for the representatives that were being released. But there'd be a lot of campaigning to take their place. But then again, it's like this is a whole new world. You can't just get into politics and recklessly, exploit the position. No more. And so I see people that, like I said before, that would want to run for office that are willing to give their lives. When you have someone willing to give their lives, and there are a lot of people doing that, in the military service that are willing to do that, they're not going to be afraid of the liability, of the responsibility of a binding oath. And then they'll read the document before they take the oath. I mean, how many representatives, if they were given a simple test like, well, how many amendments are there? How many articles are there? Oh, but just on that, most of them would fail. And that's perjury then. You can't take a note to support something you haven't read. That's perjury. So that's a crime. So it would do a lot. So
the Congress members, they get a lifetime of benefits and paid and all of that. So this would basically take all of that away for them.
It probably would. You have enough successful people that they would just say, like Donald Trump, he didn't take a salary, did he? He lost money from running. But it would also raise a tremendous awareness with people. The Constitution, without understanding the further declaratory and restrictive clauses, without understanding that, it contradicts itself. It really does. But it's so incredible how with the amendments, it perfects it. It's like the pieces are just a little bit out of alignment, and then they come together in perfect formation and make everything right. And it's like I like to compare it to the scripture where they came up and said to Jesus, hey, we got to pay a tax. We got to pay a tax. He didn't say, well, let's take a collection. He says, go grab a coin out of the fish's mouth. He mocked taxation. Taxation is not necessary. If $1 trillion can be created out of thin air, why are we being taxed, for crying out loud, right?
1 trillion?
Yeah. And so when trillions of dollars, trillions and billions, and those dollars have been used in an evil but very creative and productive way. I mean, they're not handing out money to us. I'm not getting any of it, but someone is, and they know how to give it to themselves, and they are wise as, evil serpents, right? So they've developed tremendous amounts of wealth that if we did an audit, a complete total audit, those companies, shares of those companies could be distributed to the taxpayers. And so I see this as, like I said, a tax refund that would boggle our minds. And it would be real wealth that is out there that's belonging to people that don't deserve it and don't own it. So
I love it.
There's a lot of potential with us. We just need to understand, Rhode Island, I think, wouldn't sign on to the Constitution until those 10 amendments were in place. And Thomas Jefferson said, if we include the borrowing clause, we don't have anything to nullify that. He didn't say that, I add that. It'll destroy this country. Well, that last line of the Fifth Amendment, what a powerful little phrase. It abolishes, it eliminates, it changes out of existence the tax clauses, the borrowing clause, the gold and silver clause. You're not going to take our gold to back up a U.S. currency. And think about it. Our currency works great. If we could just eliminate corruption and eliminate taxation by not having to borrow our own money and figure out a constitutional way to inject money into the economy in a fashion where we're not giving it away like candy. Oh my gosh. Now we're talking about America like we've never dreamed. The potential of this would blow our minds if we could have a vision and see what would happen if we were really living the Constitution fully. We've been following it partially, and look how successful we are. It's like we've been living it's been locked up. So this can unlock it and free us and get rid of those enemies. And if those enemies want to be enemies, let them go be enemies somewhere else. We're not going to let them do it here.
Right.
And we're not going to let them stay in Congress.
So you said something, and I heard you say this on a video before about borrowing our own money. Can you clarify that phrase, please?
When $1 trillion, okay, I've had conversations with Stephen Moore about this. He was chief economics advisor for Donald Trump. He's been on Fox News a lot. He's an economist. I've talked to Senator Hatch about this. I've talked to others. And they know some things, okay, and they're afraid to talk about them publicly because they'll be considered extreme, and all sorts of negative stuff will be flung at them, right? Just think about it. Just basically, when $1 trillion is created out of thin air, is it profit or is it debt? If you were given the power, if you had a genie that could create $1 trillion for you that would be United States legal currency, is that debt or is it profit?
Gosh, I'm assuming it's going to be debt because I don't have any.
No.
It's
No, I'm talking
profit.
about legal currency. If you're handed $1 trillion, if you're handed $1 trillion tax free, is that debt or is it profit for you?
Oh, for me, I guess it's profit because it's my money now.
Exactly. So when the Federal Reserve System creates $1 trillion, it's profit.
Light bulb.
Right. Why are we being billed for it? Tucker's even mentioned this on Fox. He said the same thing. He says, why are we being, billed and taxed when they can create it out of thin air? Well, that's the big deception. Your light bulb just came on and other people's lights are going to come on, and we're going to overthrow the modern day money changers, and they are keeping our money. So I said to Stephen Moore, I said, if we simply, in the most simplest terms, enforced the nonprofit status of the Federal Reserve System that owns the Federal Reserve banks, we could collect all of their profits that they have been able to collect from creating money since 1913. And that would far exceed our federal debt, not in just paper money, but in real wealth that belongs to you and everyone else that's paid taxes.
This is monumental.
You're seeing it.
Huge. Oh my God.
What is the federal debt right now? I know it went up to 33.
Okay. I promised some friends I would never do this in public. Okay. And we can let it out. Okay. But 26 trillion. And what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. Taxes and interest from shore to shore. The Federal Reserve is the company store. Lincoln was born in a world full of crime. He ended the war without spending a dime or without taxing a dime. He created money out of thin air. Congress won't do it because fools don't care. And they would corrupt it anyway, So we have to have some corrupt people do it in a corrupt way, but at least they're smart enough to keep us enslaved just to the point where we don't think we're slaves, right? So I got to do another verse. If you've taken an oath, you better step aside. A lot of men swore and a lot of men lied. One oath of iron and another of steel. If the right one don't get you, then the Brunson's petition will.
I love it.
Right on.
There's more. But I promised I would never do that because I was doing that in front of people. And anyway.
All right.
Play that on the trumpet.
That you did this live. Okay. They'll never know.
Only if they watch our show.
Okay. I don't care what you do with that. But anyway, there's some more verses too. It starts out, I did it kind of for Trump. Let's see. Some people say Trump is made out of mud. Well, he's a job create man made of muscle and blood, skin and bone, a tax debt, a back strapped with tax debt, the central banker's own. Right? Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
So going to questions, because we do have a lot of questions still for you.
But cut that Trump part out. I don't want people to think this is about Trump. I should have said, some people say a taxpayer's made out of mud, or republic, whatever. I can do anything with that. But, okay, sorry, go on.
So what did you do for SCOTUS for 11 years, and are you working with them currently?
Oh, right. What did Scott Sessions Harris do for SCOTUS for 11 years?
Right.
What is he doing currently? Scott Sessions Harris for 11 years was the attorney for the Supreme Court. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but that's a pretty serious job. And so he was counsel to them because there would be attorneys have specialties, right? A heart surgeon will go to an eye doctor to get his eye worked on him, and an eye doctor will go to a heart surgeon for his heart, right? So this attorney was probably specially trained and schooled and licensed to be able to handle any kind of legal liability that the Supreme Court might incur, because there's a judicial part of the court and then there's an administrative part of courts. Administrative side of courts can be sued, and judges have crossed the line from the judicial decision to an administrative decision, and they've been sued and they've pled immunity. Okay, and I say this because there was a case, I think it was called the Forrester case, where the U.S. attorneys presented an argument showing immunity, and it's like, goofed because they didn't read the whole case, because the case, actually, the judge lost because that was just an opinion. They used an opinion to back up their position. And so we read the whole case, and it's like we showed them that that was an opinion, and it was adjudicated in favor of the plaintiff. So the judge lost because he made a decision that was not a judicial decision in the court. He crossed over the line to the administrative side. Did I take too much time on that one? I probably did.
No. So did you know Scott Sessions Harris prior to filing this case?
No. I've never met him, didn't even know who he was until he didn't call us. It was one of the case analysts. Apparently there was a case analyst assigned to this. Her name, I forgot, I don't want to mention her name, but she's a case analyst. So whenever we call her back, she answers the phone. We have a special number just for her. So there's not a lot of communication, just some brief communication, And it's like, so they're looking at this, and they're seeing that if they sign a waiver, or if they fail to respond to their right to oppose by the deadline, they want to be able to say, oh, you think it was unfair? Well, look what the Brunsons did. They put your motion to dismiss, which is not required, in there. In other words, they favored you by putting your complete motion to dismiss in their petition, which they're not required to do. So you think we're not playing fair? Besides that, your attorney, your counsel signed a waiver to oppose this before conference. So if they decide to move this forward, and then their complaints, let's say we go to court and the attorney, the solicitor general says, my clients didn't have a real opportunity. It's like, the heck they didn't. You waived their opportunity. And not only that, Brunson's did some stuff for you. Put your full motion to dismiss in there. They didn't have to do that. Wow. Is that answer your question?
So this is another question. Can you tell us about how the defendants are no longer being represented by the U.S. Attorney and now are represented by the Solicitor General and waived their rights?
Well, it's really odd because the U.S. attorneys were notified on the 24th that they had on the 24th of October, that they had till the 23rd of November. Okay. And they were actually notified before that. And so for them to wait for the whole thing so on the 23rd of November, when they were due to file an opposition, we see that the Solicitor General becomes the new representative, and that the U.S. attorneys are no longer representing them. So it's late in the game too. Well, I can only speculate that the U.S. attorneys should have. This transition really was late. Quite late, and they should have done it right at the get-go, right at the 20th, 24th of October, whatever. She should have filed a notice of appearance, and that she was taking the place of the U.S. attorneys. The U.S. attorneys are from the Utah District and the Department of Justice. And so that's a good question, and it's kind of odd that they took so long. But I've done a little research on the Solicitor General, and she has a mind of her own. She does what she wants. Okay. And she has actually represented the U.S. government in front of the Supreme Court justices before, and she has done a 180 on the decision of the government and taken her own position without consulting anyone else in government. And she was being raked over the coals in a Senate hearing for doing that because the justices voted 9-0 against her. It's wow. Like she switches her position, and then they vote 9-0. So she was holding the government's position, and if she had kept the government's position, she would have won 9-0. So we're happy with her. We're glad she's there.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's the underlying reason of her being in charge now.
Well, she would go down in history. There's no doubt about that. And if she conceded in behalf of her defendants that they need to have their immunity stripped, she would be the most heroic Solicitor General in the history of this country.
And I got news for you, my friend. You're going to go down in history too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You are history in the making.
Okay. You are too then.
And we got to hear a song, Holly. We're honored with a serenade. Yeah. I'm going to say it was a serenade.
I can't do that again. I'll get in big trouble.
So what do you think's going to happen? Okay, if you had your magic 8 ball, and what do you feel will happen like after January 6th? If you had it your way?
I think that we'll see a transition before then. I think we'll see it. I hope, and I think there's a possibility that we'll see a smooth transition, and the rats will scatter. Think about all the vandalism and the riots. Why did that happen? It's because the police let them do it. You know, when the traps and the mouse and the rat traps are, taken away, what happens? The rats just explode. And so I think it's going to be a peaceful transition. There might be some kind of United States assignment for the National Guard in every city, and if there's one, and the police forces could be, and for I don't know, I just think it's going to be a smooth transition, and any sign of crimes, they'll be nipped in the bud by federal enforcement possibly, and we'll see a new news media, we'll see new people, we'll see media licenses being put up for auction, and honest news people will end up purchasing them, and we'll see news that's true and real for the first time. I'm really optimistic. I think that we could see a miracle. Remember, when the Lord promises miracles and he performs a miracle, it's not just a little bit. It's more than you can bear, right? More than you can handle. And so remember when he turned the water into wine?
First miracle.
Okay, think about that. Think about that. It was the best wine they had ever tasted or ever could taste. I mean, this must have been some really delicious stuff, right? And think about it. When they ran out of that, they were tortured the rest of their life because they couldn't get it anymore. So it's kind of like the Lord has a sense of humor. You're going to ask me to do something frivolous, because that's kind of a frivolous way to perform a miracle, right? And you want that, so you're going to have to suffer from wanting that the rest of your life, because it'll never be repeated. So this is kind of, I don't know, there's some interesting miracles in the Bible, and I think we're ready. I think there have been so many prayers and so many good, wonderful people of all faiths that have been just pleading with the Lord, please, please, please.
Yes.
So much corruption happening that he is going to show his hand in a way that I think is going to be beyond imagination. That's my hope and vision.
Well, this really is biblical. It is. Like I said earlier, it's a divinely inspired moment. And for whatever reason, you and your brothers were divinely inspired to do this and take it all the way to the Supreme Court to really heal America and the United States and bring us back to the true law and justice and free humanity, because we are all debt slaves. We are all we're not even living. We're just existing. And that needs to end. People need to go back to living again, having families again, be united, be cohesive. That family unit is being destroyed because you're just working to really live on this planet. And this is going to bust the doors wide open on everything. And thank you for doing what you're doing, and your brothers, on behalf of all the people in this country. And I think it's also going to be not only for America, you're going to pave the way for the rest of the world. You really are. I mean, because every country is going to watch what America's doing and what you guys are doing. They're going to want to follow suit.
He mentioned the central bank, and that's worldwide. So if that is part of the system that's going to fall, then I would expect it would help everyone from a global perspective. Is that true, Loy?
Well, I wouldn't say it would fall. It will just be replaced with some good, righteous people.
Oh, good.
To do it correctly. We're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's my vision anyway. So I think this country has been an example and a light to the rest of the world, but I think the light could become so bright and so easy for good, hardworking, honorable people to come into this country. It seems everything's reversed, right? It seems like one side wants to do the opposite. Instead of outdoing them, it's almost like a football team. You have two football teams, and they see one side doing something successful, so they want to do the opposite. It's so ridiculous. And so So it'll turn into where both teams are working to perform better, to perform more constitutionally, and it's going to be a synergized. What was your question?
You know what I'm hearing? It's going to be working for we the people. It's going to be representation of the people. Finally, we haven't had that in how long?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's right.
ages.
Well, and I think there are a lot of people that are misrepresented. We don't really know what the votes are, do we?
No.
But it might be that there are a lot more people for unity and kindness and love than what we're seeing in the news. And a constitutional republic, and especially when the fruits of it show, it's like, oh my gosh, this is what a constitutional republic is. You know, no taxation, lower gas prices, job opportunity. You keep everything you make, protection, crime down. Where's the crime? You know, all these enemies of the Constitution, you know, all they are like given one-way tickets to places that suit their lifestyle better.
Right.
Yeah. And I have another question. Are you related to Russell Brunson?
People ask that. I don't know. I'm sure we are because the last name Brunson.
Yeah, you're in Utah. He's in Utah, I think.
Oh, he is? Oh, I've never met him. I've heard about him, and people ask that. But
I just had to ask.
yeah, not closely that I know of. Yeah.
And I have another question for you. Are you aware of any precedent where any case before the Supreme Court has been referred to a military court of justice? And would your case in any way qualify for such a referral?
I'm not an attorney, and I have no idea about that. I don't think that a Rule 11 petition for writ of certiorari has been filed within the last 100 years. That might be someone could research that and find out when the last time a Rule 11 Supreme Court Rule 11 petition was filed.
Huh.
That would be very interesting. Yeah.
Well, I think we've kind of wrapped up with questions, unless you have anything else, Tracy, you want to ask?
No, I am just thrilled. And I just want to thank you so much for being inspired. And I'm going to say that you were probably God inspired to do this for all of us. And I just say bravo to you for having the strength and the fortitude to move this forward, and the brilliance and the team with your brothers. Oh my gosh, what a blessing.
Well, thank you. Wow. Thanks a lot. And what a blessing it is to be on the show with you guys and to see your enthusiasm and your understanding of it, the importance of it, and sharing it with your audience. So thank you for the opportunity, and feel free to reach out anytime.
Absolutely. It was an absolute honor to dive into this and to really get more of a foundation about what it is you're doing, and an education for the audience to fully understand the impact that this case has. It is biblical. It is absolutely groundbreaking. You're trailblazing whole new territory. You're opening up doors that have been, bolted shut. You're going to bust everything open, and you and your brothers are amazing what you've done. Thank you on behalf of all the people in America, and for all the children and all the children that are yet to be born, you're heralding in a whole new era on this planet. And it really is, like, I'm so honored to be talking to you. You have no idea. Like, I have goosebumps because this is groundbreaking. This is history in the making, and we are a part of it. And I can't thank you enough. And thank your brothers for us also, because I know it was a group effort and a lot of work to get you where you are. Like, I can't even imagine what you guys have done to put this together for humanity. So thank you.
Thank you. That's very humbling.
That would be awesome.
All right. Well,
Thank
honor
you.
to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was really a pleasure having you on and speaking. And thank you for your time. And I'm just honored. And we would love to have you back to talk again. Yeah. You might get too busy.
No. Hey, just don't worry about that. If I can do it, I can do it. And this is a great time. And I can't think of a better place to be right now than with you guys. So this is an amazing interview.
Well, thank you.
Okay, that was absolutely amazing. I hope you enjoyed this information. Please, if you find it in your heart, send a short letter to the Supreme Court and tell them that you expect them to uphold the Constitution for we, the people. Thank you so much for listening. Please share this episode with a friend and go out and make it a fabulous day.